All right, so we are live. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Woodland Pools and to another Cardano Q&A live stream. So we were normally do this on Mondays, and yesterday, man, I was feeling pretty rough. I was actually supposed to be at NFT XLV this weekend, and on Thursday night, Friday morning. Cool, so that's working. So Thursday night, Friday morning, I wasn't feeling great, and I took a test just to be sure, and sure enough, I came up positive with the sickness. So I had to miss that. That was kind of a bummer. And yesterday was still not feeling very well. So, but we're here and we're back, and we're going to do the thing. So for those of you that are joining us live, let us know where you're joining from and any questions that you have. For those in the comments, we will add chapters down below of the stuff that we're going to go through, and let us know where you're joining from as well. It's always fun to hear where everybody is calling in from all around the world. So last week was the last week of the month for September, which means Cardano360. So that's what we're going to take a look at for the majority of the day today and dig into the different things that were covered in Cardano360 for September. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So first thing, hello Sirignol from Seattle. Good to see you. All right, so first thing with that. So here's what we're going to take a look at. Yes, Mark Byers. I was worried that I changed it last minute, that you weren't going to make it. But Mark Byers, always joining us from now Wednesday morning in Australia. Hello, and thank you. Greatly appreciate you always being here. And artificial, my favorite artificial AI profile picture down the street in New Mexico. Oh, hey, what's going on? Love the guys at Azure Pool from Seattle. Nice. I don't know about you guys, but we actually had our first snow come in today, so it's not as warm and sunny today, but sweet. So let's go ahead and get the thing started. Cardano360. Let's take a look. So we will. All of these, by the way, links to all of these chapters in 360 are also linked down below now already, so you can jump to these different sections in Cardano360 whenever you want to take a look. The first thing they dug into was Project Catalyst results, and so I think it's probably worth stopping to take a look at that for a second, because we talked about Project Catalyst at length here on the channel and some of the funds that we were supporting. So let's pause and take a look at that. So if you remember, this is now a couple of weeks ago, we sent out this tweet as voting was closing for Catalyst Fund 10 on some of the proposals that we were supporting. We also covered it live on the live stream, and I'm happy to report that most, if not all, I think, of these proposals ended up getting funded. So if you want to check out the funds, the proposals for Fund 10 that were approved, you can come here to Project Catalyst funds. Fund 10 is also linked down below. And then additionally, they have this nice PDF that you can look at all the different proposals that were approved. Like, for example, let me see, here we go, perfect. So for example, like one of the ones that we talked about here that I'm a really big fan of, Martin with AtData, his proposal to make it that on a hardware wallet, you can sign an arbitrary payload. So for example, like on Book, if you have your books on your wallet, you can sign to prove that it's you. That functionality is needed for a lot of different things. We can see here, where was it? Here. Message signing for SIP8 and SIP30 was funded, so that's really great news. Ledger Live integration maintenance. I think this is the Strika team, if I'm not mistaken. Lots of really cool stuff here, and folks that we were hoping might get funding. Let's look at Sunday. Got their stuff was funded. I think they had like 7 proposals, and they all got funded. So really, really exciting stuff to see this moving forward and seeing these very deserving projects get their funding. I know NMKR was one that got a really big funding. Here we go. Help NMKR continue operations and develop NFTs. So congrats to Patrick and the NMKR team. Really, really cool stuff. Very happy to see that these people that have been doing great stuff in the community for years were able to get their funding to continue moving forward. And I think that this is one of the best examples of what Project Catalyst can be. I know that a lot of people complain about maybe the way that the voting works or some of the rougher edges that happen in the process, but this, I think, is a great example of like the reason why Project Catalyst exists and what are some of the great things that it can do, because all of these projects are ones that we all rely on, that build infrastructure that all these other projects build on top of. So really, really cool. Congrats to all the projects that got their funding. For those that didn't, There's always Fund 11, and it's worth mentioning, there was about a year of a break between Fund 9 and Fund 10 while the Catalyst team sort of got themselves reorganized, the team that actually runs Project Catalyst. But now we should be getting into a much more regular cadence where we should see every few months or so another voting round come out. So if you didn't get your funding in Fund 10, Fund 11 is right around the corner. And that is super cool to hear. Congratulations. Yeah, we'll have to, maybe what we should do, Mark, is maybe when we're both in Dubai, why don't we sit down and talk about your project and the funding that you guys got and the stuff that you guys are trying to build. You're a regular here on the channel, and it was so great meeting you in person at Rare. Why don't we sit down and chat about some of that, and we can hear what you guys are up to and what you're building. And then you can tell the folks about, how the Catalyst funds are going to get used and what you guys are going to use with that moving forward. So congrats again. Really, really, really happy to hear that. That's awesome. Awesome news. Cool. So with that, those were the groups that got funded by Catalyst Fund 10. But what I thought was really interesting about this Catalyst voting round was that it was also the first time that the Project Catalyst operations team, like the team that runs Project Catalyst, they actually also put in submissions to officially continue running Project Catalyst and to actually use Catalyst funds to fund their operational, fund their operations of running Project Catalyst. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's the first time we've seen something like that. So let's go ahead and check out this clip actually from 360 where they talk about that, because I thought this is kind of an interesting, sort of almost like a recursive thing of Catalyst funds being used to continue running Catalyst. Let's check that out.
And decide which direction they wanted Catalyst to go in. It's put us on a level footing with every other proposer, and I'm really humbled and delighted to announce that the Cardano community has approved our proposals to go forward and deliver. So it's a very, very exciting moment.
That's amazing, Chris. Would you be able to double click for a moment? What are these proposals about?
So the three proposals are simply the Catalyst Fund operations. This is to provide us with the resources and a realistic plan for what it takes to actually execute Catalyst at the professional scale that we operate at. Additionally, we've got Catalyst Voices approved to go forward and be delivered, which will replace the IdeaScale front-end interface where you guys submit proposals into, and the Voices will come with a web-based Wallet Connect voting experience that will also have the first instantiation of liquid democracy and Catalyst DREPs brought into production into Catalyst. So very, very soon, you'll be able to delegate your voting power to trusted individuals to vote on your behalf, which is a great improvement and advancement. And then finally, there's the Catalyst Ecosystem Accelerator proposal, which is really an ambitious and truly innovative reimagining of the infrastructure and architecture design of all of the components for the Catalyst voting system. And this is really to take us into an enabling and empowering world whereby the infrastructure is able to be democratized, deployed by anybody, and will really realize and enable voting systems to proliferate in the Cardano ecosystem and beyond.
So really cool stuff. There was the three parts they talked about there I thought was really interesting. The first one is the most straightforward one, I think, talking about Catalyst Fund operations. So this is just paying for them to continue doing that stuff. And yeah, actually right here, exactly like what Mark was just saying, the Catalyst Voices was sort of the next one they talked about. Catalyst Voices, for those that have voted in Project Catalyst, navigating IdeaScale, which is the website where all the funds and things are hosted on, is kind of clunky. And so I'm really looking forward to this, where basically the idea is they're going to build an entire new front end for Project Catalyst that is made specifically for Project Catalyst, just like any custom web application you would expect for any serious project. And what he was saying about having wallet connections, I'm hoping that that paired with the ecosystem accelerator, I'm hoping that the combination of those two things together is going to make it that you no longer have to have this process of like pulling up a barcode and scanning it and voting on your app. Like hopefully you can just do all of the voting straight from the site, the same way how you would link up your wallet to any other site you're interacting with. Like if you're buying something on JPEG Store, buying a book on Book.io, or minting an NFT on NMKR, how you just do it all through your wallet connection that is like right up here. The same kind of idea, you would do that, and yeah, and just facilitate that straight on Project Catalyst. So I can't wait to see that. I think that's going to be really cool. And yeah, awesome, Mark. Looking forward to sitting down and chatting. The other thing, too, that they mentioned here, which is cool and a very great segue, is they were talking about this. Let me mute this just so we can get the animation here. So this is going to be the idea for those people that don't necessarily want to take the time or don't have the time or know how to research these projects and vote on them. The notion of delegated representatives, where you can, the same way how instead of all of you out there standing up your own stake pools and running your own pool to be able to get rewards for proof of stake operation of the Cardano network, how you just delegate to a stake pool like our ASPEN stake pool, the same way how you just delegate to one of those and then you let that pool operator do that operations and then you all share in the rewards together. Similarly, for voting, there's going to be the same notion of delegated representatives where you will now, instead of having to vote in Project Catalyst on your own, you can delegate your voting power, the same as how you delegate your staking power. And you delegate your voting power to this delegated representative. They can do all of the research and they do all the voting, and you share in the voting incentivized rewards together. And it's much more of like a elected democratic system where you delegate someone that you think has the same beliefs as you do and let them vote on your behalf. So I think that is a cool transition to then the next thing that was talked about was Voltaire. And now there's a couple different parts to Voltaire. The first one, actually, we'll come back to Intersect because this is the next one that I think is more relevant for this specific conversation about DREPs, is SanchoNet is a testnet that is out right now that is basically a version of the Cardano node that facilitates everything that has to do with the voting stuff for SIP 1694 and those things that we talked about for like the SIP 1694 workshops that were going on and the Cardano Constitution and how delegated representatives are going to work. So all of that were all these different workshops that were happening from a constitutional and philosophical standpoint of how do we want this to run. And then SanchoNet is the actual technical deployment of the SIP 1694 stuff, so that we can actually use those things and do SIP 1694 and Voltaire related activities on chain, like voting, like setting up and pointing your delegation to a delegated representative to vote on your behalf. So all that stuff is in flight right now. And if you want to learn more about SanchoNet and how you can get involved, sancho.network is the website to check out. And this is also in the description below, but I will put it into the chat. So that is how you can learn more about that. So then that is how you would do voting and how we're going to do these different kinds of actions on chain. But then separately, in terms of what some of these proposals are and how they get chosen and the direction that these proposals and votes would go, that is where we then bring in another aspect of Voltaire called Intersect. So let me mute this here. Here we go. So Intersect, let me hide this real quick, is a member-based organization for the Cardano ecosystem, putting the community at the center of Cardano's development. So the idea is that it's a member-based organization that anybody can join, and in that, it's basically like a steering committee of where we want the Cardano ecosystem to go, what things for both the development of the chain and governance and all these other things. And this will work hand in hand with the constitution of SIP 1694 and the proposals that will get put on chain to vote on. Intersect will be sort of that steering committee comprised of multiple people from the community, organizations, individuals. Really cool idea there, how you can have some direct influence on how that all moves forward. So that is the website for Intersect, and that is also linked down below if you're watching on the replay. So I thought this is a pretty cool update they had on Voltaire with a little actually, all of it going hand in hand, rolling off nicely from Catalyst, where we had the idea of Catalyst funds being voted on to enable things like delegated representatives. Then we have the idea of SanchoNet, which will give us the actual technical capabilities to do these voting on these proposals. And then all of that paired with Intersect, which is going to give us the ability to do the steering of what are those things we want to actually vote on. So really cool to see all these things coming together as on the roadmap, we start moving into the age of Voltaire, which is the last big piece of the Cardano infrastructure roadmap rollout with self-governance. So really cool stuff there. Next, I want to take a look at some of the highlights from RareEvo. There's some additional clips that came out this month. Before we do, let's do a couple more hellos. CM, hello from the UK. Good to hear from you. And Stacy, wow, long time. Stacy has been a delegator with the pool, I think almost since the very beginning. So Stacy, it's always great to hear from you and see you live with us here on a live stream. So let's go ahead and then take a look at some of the stuff from RareEvo. RareEvo was really cool because it was not just, a lot of people coming together and having a great time seeing each other, which was, for me, a huge highlight. It felt like how Wolf3102 said in his article that he wrote about it. It felt very much like a family reunion of everybody coming together and getting to see each other again. It was absolutely wonderful. But aside from that, there was also a lot of cool workshops and things that happened. So I'm just going to show you some of the things that were talked about here. So here was George from M Labs. If you don't know, M Labs is actually the team that writes a lot of the code underneath a lot of your favorite projects. Is actually the team at M Labs is writing that. So really bright people over there. So really cool hearing about some of their takes on the conference and where the chain is going. Me and Stablecoin talking about their US their fiat-based stablecoin that is rolling out on the Cardano blockchain. And also they, if I'm not mistaken, let's double check. I'm almost certain that they also got some funding here. Yep. There it is. Yeah, so they also got some funding from Project Catalyst. So once again, really cool to see a project that is bringing some great utility to the chain, got some funding from Catalyst. So I think, for all of its rough edges, Project Catalyst has been working very, very well. And maybe it can get better, but I think it's been working really, really well. So that was really cool to see. Then they also dug into some of, actually, you know what? Let me pause here because what I wanted to show here was, this is actually really cool. Friend of the channel, Patrick from NMKR, they stopped and sort of like were chatting with him and asked him a couple of questions. But I thought that, as usual, Patrick has some really good insights for sort of his view of the chain and how things are done. And he captured a couple of points here in this just sort of like candid interview that they had with him here that I thought resonated well with the kind of stuff we talk about on the channel. So I wanted to share that with you guys because that was some pretty good insights. So let's check out this little clip from Patrick at the RareEvo conference.
I believe that tooling and infrastructure for governance is extremely important because by the right tooling, you are setting the tone of the governance. So I believe like if we start and we build the right tools from the beginning that just enable transparency and enable you to just really engage with the governance on a deeper level. For me personally, Voltaire is extremely important. That's the reason why I came to Cardano in the first place. I believe in the whole decentralized governance idea. And I think it's opening up so many opportunities now. It's of course funding gets available for Cardano, but it also it's the first step towards like a global government, right? And that's a really empowering thing. It's a government that is not bound to any country, but it's actually just bound to the people using the network. And that's amazing because you can do so much with it. From my perspective, I think that, IOG set the base layer, like the foundational stuff, and a lot of the very important things that we are using every day, right? Be it Plutus, be it of course, the main chain and all this kind of stuff, DB Sync. And now what's happening is that the community is stepping up more and more and taking ownership over parts of this. So for example, Icon is not an IOG project. It's like a community project that is now being funded by the CF. And that's amazing because it's like an actual alternative.
The Indigo team.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just thought this is how Patrick does, very dense, sort of just like lots of good stuff in there. It would actually probably take me a while to tease out all the things that he mentioned, but a couple of things that I thought were really cool. One, the importance of infrastructure, which obviously coming from a guy who started an infrastructure company, he would think that, but I completely agree. The importance of infrastructure, and that actually it's like most of the proposals here that I was saying we should vote on were all infrastructure type projects, and how that sort of lifts all of the ships on the Cardano tide, so to speak. But then some other things too, like the notion of thinking about how with self-governance, we can have this idea of, instead of like the physical borders that we all live in for nations, how you can have these different chains can almost be their own nations, their own like organizations that are more of like a digital representation of where you choose to put your value and transact and how you want to vote on how that moves and where it goes. Really, really cool concepts there. And then the other piece too that we've talked about a few times on the channel that I'm really glad that you brought up is, for all the great things that IOG is doing, it makes me excited personally that if you look at even like, for example, the history of this channel and the kind of things that we've covered over the past 2.5 years now, if you notice, we end up talking about IOG and Charles and some of these other things less and less, because more and more often now, all the big and exciting things that are happening are done by all these other community members instead of by IOG. Like the last big thing we need from IOG is the rollout of some of these things like SanchoNet and stuff like that so that we can have self-governance. But increasingly, we're seeing that the really big wins that are happening are from really smart people in the community outside of this one specific entity that happens to be making like the on-chain developments and rollouts. So like he was saying, ASPEN, which is an absolutely huge win for the Cardano ecosystem, was put together as just a project because Lucas and Casey thought this would be a cool thing to do. And then, they paired up with K2Z and got funding from the CF. And now they basically work through the CF to continue developing ASPEN. But that was like a project that they thought of on their own. And now, for example, like as we roll through the ITO here with like Book.io, all of our on-chain validators are written in ASPEN. And there's a lot of other projects that have, actually SundaeSwap is transitioning all of their contracts from vanilla Plutus that they wrote that was developed by IOG. And what are they doing? In some of their Fund 10 proposals that were funded, they're moving all of their contracts over to ASPEN that were made by these people that don't work for IOG. So really cool to see that. Really cool to see someone like Patrick calling that out, where I think that's exactly spot on, where that's the way that we're going. What we're going to see in the future, that Charles and IOG are just one other company that happens to be doing things on Cardano. So yeah, really, really cool stuff. And good to see you, Vic. Yeah, Patrick, if he has the time and he's interested, which I don't know if either of those are true, I think Patrick would be a fantastic D-rep. I just, I think he has so much other stuff going on. I wonder if he would be able to pull that off. But yeah, cool. So then with that, the last thing here from RareEvo that I wanted to show that was pretty cool was then there was also, like I said, different kinds of workshops and things that were put on. And one of the ones that we talked about on the channel, both after it happened and while we were at the conference, we talked about how cool it was that they put together the Mithril and Hydra workshop. And so I want to just play a clip of that to give you guys an insight into how all of that went, because that was really cool. And it was just really nice to see all that stuff in action that we've been talking about for years now on the channel. So that'd be kind of fun to give you guys a little bit of an insight into how all of that came together. So let's check out that clip as well.
From the Mithril and Hydra teams are also here at RareEvo with a special workshop to help developers set up their first Hydra head and to send their first transaction.
Recapping today, it was not only about this tutorial really. We see people getting their first Hydra heads open, but that quickly evolved then into a more interactive session.
With Hydra, you could host the bidding process in the Hydra head and provide much faster bid confirmations.
There's a lot of senior Cardano developers in this room who I respect. It's still very new technology, so to see the people that have been implementing it, like I've seen them online, so it's nice to see people face to face in a workshop like this as well.
Charles had mentioned that we're actually trying to reduce the UTXO memory usage, so it's nice to hear that we're actually lowering the barrier to entry for a lot of new developers coming in.
Literally right now, I'm validating a Mithril snapshot on my computer to get the Hydra head running, so it's all coming together.
So events like RareEvo are always a wonderful reminder of the passion, the determination, the resilience, the innovation and the skills that we have within the Cardano community. And as we enter the age of Voltaire and our path towards truly decentralized governance, we can be reassured that we have all the people we need here to make it a success.
Cool. Yeah, so that was kind of fun. Covering 360 every month for like 2.5 years, having a small clip in one, that was kind of fun. But you can tell in there just how excited I was to be messing around with Hydra and actually getting some hands-on stuff on there. It was really, really cool. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the continued rollout of that and playing around with it some more. So yeah, hats off to Arno and Sebastian. That was a fantastic workshop. Okay, so from there, there was updates on the Cardano in Africa. They are working with a team of students in Kenya, and they are teaching them how to write Plutus and Haskell and deploy stuff on chain. And so, yeah, that's kind of a cool thing that's going on there. And then, yeah, they just wrapped up with some updates on Lace and Intersect. So, oh yeah, you were there as well. That was you right around here somewhere. Anyway, but yeah, so that was yeah. RareEvo was great. Solid Cardano 360 this month. I really enjoyed it. So with that, for those of you that appreciate the educational stuff that we do here on the channel, and if you want to support the channel, the best way you can do that is by delegating to the ASPEN stake pool and join one of our almost 1,200 delegators. Yeah, we really appreciate all of you and all of the folks. Like I always say, from our biggest whales to our smallest fishies, everybody is welcome. And be like our friend Stacy, who's been with us now for coming up on 3 years, and it's been absolutely great. That is all that we had for today. I just wanted to go through 360 and make sure we didn't go too long from when that happened. And even though it energizes me, makes me very excited to do this with you guys because it's so much fun, I have been feeling still pretty rough all day today. And so I told myself, let's not skip the live stream this week. Let's still do it, but it'll probably be a short one. So I think we're probably going to call it there. I don't see any other questions that we need to get to. So thanks everybody for coming out. We will be back on a normal schedule starting this again next Monday. If there's anything else that I missed, leave me down below, a note down below for anything that we should have covered. And if nothing else, we'll see you next week. Have a good week, everybody. Bye.